This week's Growing, Eating, and Educating NanBop Farm Director Jason Abraham takes us back to the NanBop Indoor Grow.
And we're learning all about the flats and why they're important to any grow. So let's watch Jason get his hands dirty.
How's it going, guys? Today I'm going to talk to you about flats and why we use them and where they're effective and what plants are the best in flats. So for me personally, I like to grow my leafy greens in flats. It allows for a more dense planting. As you can see here, these are some beets that we were growing earlier in the season that we planted back in December. They've run their course, and so now we've already replaced them with other flats of some fresh beets, and now we're gonna go ahead and take this apart, and I'll show you something very cool about what happens when you grow in a flat like this and how nutrients and water can be shared among all the plants. And it's a very eye-opening image when I flip this over and you see the root system that's in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out really quickly, put it here in our compost pile, and we'll go from there. And this variety is actually a beet called baby beets. So these beets don't actually get very big. I am not harvesting the beets themselves because I did not set this flat up to actually plant the beet and get the good root growth that you need to have the nice beet at the bottom of the plant. But you can see they were trying. You do get a little bit of a beet even though I'm putting them in these lower flats. Now, if you were growing beets and you wanted beets when you're growing them indoors, just double the amount of dirt that you have. You got about 2 inches here. If you went to about 4 inches, you would get good fruit or roots if you'd rather call them roots. Now, if I take this over and dump it, when I lift this up, it's all roots. And that is a really, really good sign right there. You've got a lot of the lighter color roots. So the lighter the color and the smaller the root, the better. Cool thing is I can actually pull all this root ball straight off. And what this allows me to do is reutilize this soil. And I will give it a little touch of a fertilizer because the plant has, I mean, you can see these beautiful roots. But the plant, because of all these roots, has pulled the nutrients straight out of that dirt, which is what you want. And so what we'll do is I'll actually go ahead and supplement a little bit of a product that I like to use that's called Kelpful. And it sounds like helpful, and it is from Morgan Composting's Dairy Dew brand. And it is amazing. It has just enough nutrients for new seedlings to help get them going and give them just enough nutrient. You don't need a whole lot of nutrients on seedlings. Traditionally, a seedling will actually pull a lot of nutrients right out of the seed itself. And then from there, it'll pull it out of the dirt after it starts growing a little. I am putting it in firmly, but I'm not overly pressing. I don't want to take the air completely out of this soil. What I do want is the soil level to be as close to the level of the top of this tray here. So I wipe these edges off. And I'll just kind of get a feel. Got a couple little more spots to just fill in. So what I have done is this is specifically for planting in flats like this. I'll take this one, for example. These are 2-inch spaced. So you could use this as 2-inch spacing. You could use it as 4-inch spacing. You could use it as 6-inch spacing. It's the beauty of having something like this is it makes your job a lot easier when it comes time to plant. But I'll put the holes in the soil first to make putting my seeds in significantly easier. You just get it down on the soil, give it a little wiggle, pull it up, and you can see they're not incredibly wonderful looking, but they give you exactly where you want them to be from a template standpoint. So what I'm about to plant is some Swiss chard. And on the Swiss chard, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna skip a hole on the 2-inch. So we're gonna actually go with a 4-inch gapping because we'll get a little better production that way. So what I'll do is I'll actually seal my end hole, pick my first hole, seal my next hole, pick, seal, pick, seal. All right, you can see here I've finished with getting my holes pre-plotted. I went with the stagger pattern so that it increases space so you have a little bit more room for each plant to survive. Because with leafy greens, they have a tendency to bolt when they get stressed, and one of the stress components is being planted too closely together. So that's why with leafy greens, having them in a flat is great because you can share the nutrients, you can share the water amongst the whole flat, And as long as your light is touching every plant, you're going to get great growth. So I've got some Swiss chard seed. And this is a coated seed, a pelleted seed. Plus there's multiple seeds in here, so you're gonna get that germination and make sure you have a plant coming through. What I'm gonna do now is a little trick I learned from our flower specialist, and that is vermiculite. And the cool thing about using vermiculite in this way is vermiculite will pull moisture out of overly wet soil, and it'll also put moisture back into overly dry soil, provided the vermiculite is wet. It'll actually keep that moisture level fairly consistent, which consistent moisture is the #1 most important thing in a seed start. If you don't continually have consistent moisture, you run the risk of the seed drying out during the germination time. And if it dries out during germination, that's done. It's not gonna come back, it's gonna die. And I'm just gonna quickly hit each location of the seeds just to make sure that vermiculite's wet. So there it is, that's one flat of Swiss chard seeds planted and then covered up with that vermiculite. And remember, don't hesitate to make a tool like this at home. They are wonderful, they save you time, they save you energy. At the end of the day, if you're not enjoying your garden, why are you growing it? As you can see here, I've got 12 flats on this table. And yesterday was our harvest day, so we came in with our cut and come again. We cut off all the outer plants, and it's pretty amazing to see how quickly these plants rebound and start growing again for next week's harvest. Some of the greens have already gotten to the point where I could even almost harvest them again today if I wanted. But what I want to show you here is the advantage of watering a flat. For me, I don't have to be as controlled or accurate in terms of hitting each individual plant when I'm in a flat. Because when I'm in a flat, I can come in here with my regular watering can and I can come in fairly broad strokes and just get the water to kind of flow around on all the dirt. You know, all this water is going to get picked up by those roots. And the cool thing is, the way those roots grow, you don't even know which plant those roots were from because they've all put out so many roots. But the nice thing is I can come in very quickly, do more of a broad style watering, and I don't have to stress about making sure I'm hitting each individual plant, because underneath all this is where the magic happens, and that's where all those roots are together and they're going to pull the nutrients and pull the water as it comes down in. Today was all about flats and what they do for you and how they help you be more efficient and how you can reduce time with my little cheat that I showed you for planting. But at the end of the day, it's all about having fun. It's all about enjoying what you're doing. Do something you haven't done before. Pick a leafy green. Try to grow it in a flat. If you've never grown leafy greens in flats before, you might find it's pretty easy, and it makes your life a lot easier in terms of getting a usable harvest every week so you can keep having those good fresh salads all through the winter. But you know, it's one of the many ways that I like to grow. It's one of the best ways to grow. Like I said, for leafies, it's awesome. That's going to wrap it for today. I appreciate you guys watching. Have a good time with your garden. Send me some pictures. Send me some questions. Talk to you guys again soon. This is Jason from NanBop Farm. Have a good